Thanks for taking time out, I'm sure already, in what's probably getting to become a little bit of a busy latter half of the Advent season and our last minute marathons to the Christmas feast next week. So thanks for taking time out of your day and schedules to join us for this this town hall, where we are thrilled to have two guests with us, Erin and Natalie from Homeboy Industries, and we'll introduce them here in just a moment. But let's begin, as we always begin, first with prayer here. Okay, so in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Good and gracious God, we come to you with so much gratitude for your presence in our life. We thank you for the mercies that you give us each and every day to give us strength and courage and love as we continue this journey, especially this journey in serving our brothers and sisters that are most in need, those that are in some way disenfranchised or struggling to make ends meet. We thank you for inviting us on this journey of accompaniment and accompanying our brothers and sisters. So we pray that you would bless this time that we have together, that you would bless Erin and Natalie as they share their stories and their work at Homeboy Industries with us. We pray all of this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. My name is Father Dustin Fedden, and I am so thrilled to be here today, to be joining everyone here, and especially joining Natalie and Erin, and being able to hear about the extraordinary work that I see just in bits and pieces through Instagram and Facebook posts and things like this, but to really hear the kind of the nuts and bolts from them about everyday life and work that they do for so many of our brothers and sisters. It's an honor to be able to be a part of this conversation, this town hall. As you know, is the custom here. We will have about a 30-minute or so. Natalie's had some caffeine, so if it goes on a little bit further, that's fine, Natalie. There's no worries. But we'll come to some Q&A after their presentation. But if you have questions or thoughts, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat box down below, and then I'll field those questions and comments at the latter half of today's town hall. So without further ado, if maybe we'll start with you, Erin, for an introduction, and then Natalie.
Okay, so my name is Erin Adams. I've been at Homeboy for 10 and a half years now. So I've been here for a while. I think initially I came to Homeboy. I worked at a probation camp, so with youth ages 14 to 20. Worked there for about 3 years and then came to Homeboy initially as a case manager. Worked as a case manager for 6 years with youth, men and women, all the way to the age, I want to say from 14 to about 65-year-olds, all previously incarcerated on parole or probation. And then maybe about 6 years ago, I started my journey in the mental health field. So I went back to school, finished school, got licensed, and now I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And I work in the mental health department. I've been in the department for about 3 years now. And I also oversee the substance abuse department here at Homeboy. So I've been here for a while, enjoy it. I feel like this is my niche. This is what I love to do. I love my clients, and I just really enjoy working alongside with them, guiding them in their journey. And not so much as I feel like I don't want to say I came here as intentionally as a savior or anything, right? I'm here to kind of walk with the clients and guide them along in their journey and just be that helping hand and that continuous person in their life. So that's a little bit about me. Natalie, if you want to share yours.
So, my name's Natalie renegas Campos. I been at Homeboys, just going on my 11th year. So I've been at Homeboys for 10 years. Just right after Erin, I started. But the difference between me and Erin is that I started as a trainee. So I started the program as somebody that just got out of prison. So I am formerly incarcerated. I am a homegirl. So I've been in the lifestyle. I was about 30 years old when, hey, maybe 31. I don't remember. However old I was when I got to Homeboys. Seems like a long time ago. But yeah, so I've been at Homeboys for that amount of time. Um, Worked in different positions, and right now I'm the associate director of case management. I'm also decided to go back to school, and I'm pursuing an LS. I want to become a licensed clinical social worker also.
That's great. Thank you, Natalie and Erin. And so, yeah, so whoever would like to start, and I know you have maybe a few slides as well.
So yeah, so let me share my screen and get the slides up. Let's see. How do I minimize this? Let's see. Okay. So we can look. Oh no. Okay, here we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think so the people who we work with here at Homeboy, right? So they're all I want to say about 90% of them are formerly incarcerated, on probation or on parole. They're either gang involved or gang impacted in one way or another. We service and we work with youth. So I think I want to say the youngest would maybe be about 13 to 14. We have a youth program, and we also work with adults, and we have adults who are older, younger. I mean, I think there, and I think especially now with a lot of the laws that have changed and a lot of lifers who are getting out, we have a lot of older adults as well. I think initially it was younger adults, but I feel like we've transitioned a little bit more to working with older adults. Wouldn't you say, Natalie?
I think it is true that there has been, because of the laws that changed, that we've been having a lot of older people come in, but not also like older people, but we have a lot of juvenile lifers also. So they could be like in their mid 30s that been incarcerated as a youth. So coming out, Homeboys was initially their first stop in receiving the support that they are getting. So I mean, I don't know if everybody on the call like knows about Homeboys, but Homeboys is centered in Los Angeles, and we are like one of the largest gang intervention rehabilitation centers. Um, like Erin said, that's the population we work with. So we serve anybody that walks in through the doors. But we have case management, and the people that come on case management, those are the people that we focus on, people that are formerly incarcerated, people that don't have support. So we work with the least likely to succeed. So people that it could be like their fifth chance, sixth chance, first chance, we work with them. So we never turn our back on any of these people that come in through the door. So that's the difference. I think that makes us different from Homeboys, because people could exit the program one day and then a week later they were able to come back into the program. Basically, it's up to them, like, what they want in their life. And a lot of times people just get confused and don't know what they want in their life, and they're scared. So a lot of things that they do, they're acting out sometimes for the attention that they've never got. And usually, like, people always got attention and it was always a negative one. So we're teaching them on basically like how to be able to be seen. That's what people want to be seen at Homeboys. And when people are seen, that's when they start to thrive.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add is what also makes us a little different is a Homeboy doesn't go out and we don't recruit people or really take referrals from probation or parole officers. So a lot of the clients, no, all of the clients walk through these doors because they want to, because they're at a place in their life where they're tired, where they need help, where they need support. So we don't work closely with we don't get referrals from different county entities. It's all, you know, it's all volunteer. They come when they're ready. They can walk through our doors and they know that once they walk through our doors, we're not going to turn them away. Okay. So Natalie, do you want to talk a little bit about relationship building or
Yeah, I'll take this, guys. So, everything's about relational. That's what Homeboy is like. That's our main motto. Like, you can't ask somebody to do something. You can't tell somebody what do they need if you don't have a relationship from them. So a lot of times, like, coming from one institution to another institution, however you want to look at it, is still Homeboys is still an institution, and there's still like people of authority. There's still like people, they're used to people always telling them what to do. So what you need to do is build rapport. So it's all about relationship there. So we that's like our motto. So one of the things we talk about is like meeting people where they're at. And as we meet people where they're at, we understand that there's not one cookie cutter method to like serving people. Like it might whatever we do for you, we might not do for Erin, or we might not do for the next person, because that's not what they're holding. And everybody has trauma, but their trauma might look different. And their trauma might be having them, to have other barriers than other people. And some people, if they come out of prison, some people might have a little bit of support. Some people might not have no support. So like, you got to meet them where they're at. And sometimes, it's always just asking, like, not like, just how are you doing? Like, what do you need? Instead of telling them what they need, or what how they're doing, because they've heard that their whole life. Like, oh, you're just this. You're supposed to live this way. You're supposed to do that. So really having them own their own voice, and like it's like a magic when you see people, they come in and when they start to like own their own voice and be able to tell their own story and be able to say like, this is what I need and this is how I feel. Is like so amazing, and that's like one of the beauties, and so beautiful. So like, as we talked about rapport building, and that could look different. That could look different. So like, we might not meet the client. Some people might have anxiety. Some people get in the shoes. Some people might have like trauma being in closed spaces. So maybe you might have to take a walk. Maybe you might go to the park. Maybe you go on a hike. So however it is, like, rapport building looks differently. We always think about like taking people outside. A lot of people never left their neighborhood, only maybe to go to prison. So like, we go on little events, maybe to like to the beach, to the park. We have picnics. We do whatever we can for people to feel safe, to be able to like start to like let their walls down. So like, we said rapport building, but that could look different.
and then
Even just taking,
just to add to the
yeah.
rapport building, I remember years ago I had a client who had never been to the beach, and we're sitting and we're meeting and we're completing our assessment and treatment plan, and he basically had never been to the beach. So what I was able to arrange for him, and I think we have the liberty and the freedom to do this, was for our next session we drove to the beach and we sat on the sand and we had our session together on the sand. And I think this was a perfect opportunity for me to build that relationship with the client, for me to help him experience something that he's never experienced. And I think that was the beginning of a beautiful working relationship where we were able to build and grow, and I was able to kind of just help him along his journey with a little bit more of a stronger relationship. Also just kind of thinking of therapy. I think the other thing here, I had a client who I was able to go to the cemetery with. She was grieving her father, so we had our session at the cemetery where we were able to really unpack and just do different type of work, deeper work than we would be able to do if we just stayed in the office, if we were confined to one space. So sorry, Natalie.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Perfect. Don't worry. So, and then we think about like cultural humidity, right? So just because we think people maybe of a certain ethnicity, certain culture, or just because they're a homegirl or they're cholas, they experience the same thing. People don't always experience the same things. People don't always live the same way. And a lot of times too, like, one of the things too that makes us like aware is like we did like a lot of home visits too. And when you do like a lot of home visits, you really get to have an understanding of the way people live and who they are. Sometimes, you think about like, oh, this person is just getting high because they're always tired, but yet they don't even have a bed to sleep on, or like they don't have like there's no space because like there's all these people living in one house and they can't, go to sleep or there's no food. So just being able to be aware of like who that person really is and where they're really coming from, instead of having that judgment, you try to think about not having any judgment at all and being trauma informed. So when you think about not judging people, you think about trauma informed approach, right? So you don't you're not gonna like come from some like in a place where you're gonna be able to like judge somebody because people been judged their whole life. I think about like myself, you know, I don't really look like a homegirl, so people are like, oh, she could go get a job, she could do this. But like I've never had a job. I've been in prison practically my whole life. I'm an addict. My mom's an addict. My mom is still an addict to this day. But people look at me and think like, oh, she's just some white girl that's probably educated. But no, like I'm not. Like that's not who I was when I first came into the door. So like being able to be like aware of like who I was and what I need. I didn't have support. I didn't open up to people because I came from a household where you couldn't talk about what was going on outside your household. And like I kept everything inside of me. I mean, to this day, I still don't really share like a lot of stuff. I give people like bits and pieces of my life, but I think I've come a lot farther than what I've had before, and harm reduction. So, you know, we think about harm reduction, and this is like something like Father Greg always talks about a lot. It's like working in the gray, right? There's no black and white. You have to work in the gray because sometimes you think about like people are gonna come in and you got to meet them where they're at, and some people are gonna be getting loaded. They're gonna be high, but as maybe they're gonna start to reduce it. So then you think about, okay, well maybe they're not smoking like every day, but they're smoking like maybe 2 times a week. So you start to think about that approach, then say like, no, never mind, let's cut them off because yeah, they're doing drug tests, or because like their behavior, because they're at homeboys from 9 to 5. They leave homeboys, they still got to go home to the same neighborhoods that they grew up in, the same chaos, the same dysfunction. So they still have to be in survival mode. They're not gonna like learn all these coping skills and learn how to like change their behaviors overnight. So maybe the way they react to things is not the way that they're supposed to right away. But you got to think about like, while they're showing up every day, you know, they go to groups, he's in therapy, he meets with his case manager, instead of saying like, oh, he's not ready because he just got in a fight when he left in his neighborhood, or his PO just arrested him. But you have to think about like overall approach. And like as we had talked about, like they are the experts. So it's about listening to like what they need and like what really their needs are.
Okay, so some reminders when working with individuals who are previously incarcerated or gang involved. They have a lot of trauma, right? So it's not just one isolated event. So you're working with people who have complex trauma, years and years of trauma, right? So I think starting from a young age, a lot of our clients have experienced maybe domestic violence, maybe parents who are addicts or abusive. So I think it's important to always remember that you're working with people who don't just, that have been labeled bad, or these are the choices they've made. But I think it's important to understand, well, yeah, these are some of the choices they made. However, some of these choices came from their, you know, their upbringing, the lifestyle, they have insecure attachments, right? So they don't know how to build healthy relationships. No, I don't want to generalize for everyone, right? But a lot of the clients don't know how to build healthy relationships with others. You know, like Natalie said, their home environments sometimes are not the healthiest. We don't want to be punitive to someone who continues to be late every day, because we don't know why they're being late. Are they catching a bus where they have to ride on the bus for an hour, and they're, you know, riding through rival gangs territories? And it, you know, I think that we really have to kind of keep all of these factors in mind when we're working with people, because then it's easy to place judgment on others, and it's easy to point the finger and kind of blame the blame the clients, when it's important to take a complete look, you know, what's happening at home, what, you know, what they've experienced in life. And I think it's so important as well. I think when we talk about the insecure attachments, I think when you're working in the case managers, therapists, I think just that healthy therapeutic relationship that they build with you alone can do wonders for them, for people. You know, being that person who they can trust and who will follow through with everything, you know, you guys have worked, everything you've planned together with the client. I think the other point on this PowerPoint would be a client-centered approach, right? Going back to, they're the experts. They know what they need. They know what they want. Maybe I'm sitting there and thinking that I know what's best for them, but ultimately they know themselves the best. They know what's going to work for them, and I'm going to work with them on that plan, because they need to be creating their own treatment plan. I have no business creating it for them. They should be the ones that are completely invested in what their future looks like and what areas they need help with. Um, so also allow them to share what they're,
So,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Natalie.
no, so with all of these points, one of the things that makes us unique at Homeboys, like this is the thing that I feel like I always like to share about is at Homeboys, we have a thing called Secure Base. So Secure Base is made up of a team of people that's gonna be there to support and lead the client, right? So coming in, we want people to build like relationships, healthy relationships. Well, how does that look like? Because sometimes, you learn for social learning theory, right? They're gonna model what they learn at home. And a lot of times too, sometimes they're gonna come from domestic violence. I mean, if you're a gang member, there's already violence there. I mean, I'm a homegirl. I got beat up to get into a gang. So I think violence is the answer to everything. Like you disrespect me, I'm gonna hit you. I came from prison, you get in my face, I'm gonna hit you. So like I don't know how to like model healthy behaviors, or a healthy relationship, or even what does a relationship look like? If I got high with my mom, if I gangbang with my family, if we learned how to sell drugs, like how am I supposed to do this if nobody's teaching me? So Homeboys has, if you come into our program, we have an 18-month model. So the 18-month model is based on the attachment theory. So we want to help people be able to learn and create those a secure attachment. So when they leave Homeboys, that they're able to leave and have that confidence, have that high self-esteem, and know that no matter what, like they have a place to come back to, and they have that support team. So Homeboys navigators. So navigators are like peer mentors. So peer mentors are people that's been through the program that's made it up into like senior staff. So you're gonna have your peer mentor as a navigator, and you're gonna have your case manager, and you're gonna have a therapist. The therapist is not necessarily like a therapist you see, because therapy is usually taboo in coming from this type of population, especially because you don't talk about your feelings, especially in prison. Like if you could get stabbed if people know that you're gonna be seeing a therapist or be seeing psych meds. So like we have to learn to be able to change that narrative. And the way you change that narrative is by allowing people to model those things. So a lot of the peer mentors are homies that's been to the program. So a lot of them been in therapy. So they start to introduce like, hey, why don't you try therapy? this is good. So then they start to build that support team, because we want to have them. If you think about it, like, you're only as strong as your foundation, right? And if you don't have a strong foundation, you're gonna fall. So here's already 3 people that we're gonna already pillars that are gonna start to build your foundation. And the hopes is that, well, through secure base, you're gonna be able to add to your foundation. So then, all these things that Erin just mentioned, that they're going to be able to start to work on. And in secure base, it's all client centered. So basically, it's like just listening to them and allowing them to tell their story, like what it is you need. And then at the end, usually people leave with a goal. So then as a team, we work on who's going to accompany this person for that goal. So it doesn't always like be on one person. And then that person learns like, oh, I could trust this person and I could trust that person. Because think about it, like, people that come from this population, what is our motto? Like, trust no B, trust no one, right? So like, that's the mentality, no matter what. Like, even when you try to like want to change your life, when you first come in, like, that's what you're thinking. You have this false belief system that's been embedded in you through like, and this false belief system kind of kept you alive for all these years. So you got to like think about that part right there. So you got to help them like, change their thought process. And these are like some of the pillars that, we do in secure base. Um,
Yes.
that's like one of my biggest things with secure base, because like, I didn't know how to build relationships, and like, it was able to like, okay, I could trust this person. Like, I knew like the only thing that was going to help me was trusting people. You don't have to trust everybody, but you're going to have to trust some people in order to make it. Because if you think about it, like, you keep going to the same people, they're going to co-sign your BS. Like, my mom told me, like, just leave. You're going to leave anyways. Like, just leave. And I'm like, damn, like, I don't want to go back to prison, but I didn't know any which way to live. So, I was able to like create these other relationships, and now like I'm able to have more healthy relationships with my son.
And I think this is a perfect example of just of my last bullet point here was allow people allow your clients and people to share their own stories, right? So I can very much sit here and share Natalie's story, but it's not my story to tell. It's not this is for her to share the way she wants to share it. So I think that's an important point to cover, to allow others to share their own stories.
Yeah, so I mean, just a little bit overall, like, to think about, like, I've already like seen, being in case management for so many years. I had the opportunity, like, to work with different people, and now I have the opportunity to oversee like the department and see everybody that comes in, and being able to just to relate to them in certain ways. And when people find out, like, damn, you came into the program, like, because half of them don't ever believe that I came into the program. I'm like, yeah, I had a worse mouth than you, don't worry about that. Like, I had to learn how to like speak. Sometimes I still like have to think about what I'm gonna say, because the homegirl wants to come out of me, and like I want to cuss, and like it's just a little difficult. But so I have to work on certain things. I tell them, I'm like, no matter where you're at in life, like, it's always gonna be a life. This is gonna be a lifelong journey, So I just think about like you know like I told you, I was like 30 years old when I came to Homeboys. And I had already did like 4 prison terms. One of the prison terms, my kid's dad got killed and shot. So I never knew that like I was dealing with grief and loss. I didn't even know what grief and loss was. So at Homeboys, I learned about grief and loss. And I think like because I was able to like heal from that grief and loss, and really think about, wow, there's stages of grief and loss, and have a full understanding of like what the trauma was that I was going through, that I decided like I didn't want to use drugs anymore. Drugs was just my coping mechanism. I thought that was the answer to everything. Let me just get high. I don't have to deal with this. But in my mind, I just think about like I thought I was gonna be like 50 years old, coming in and out of prison, and I was gonna be kicking it with the next set of youngsters. Being at Homeboys, I was able to have like I could never see my life. I had like tunnel vision. I never seen my life anything else. Like the way my life is today, I would have never imagined my life like that. But it was because of relationships that was taught to me through homeboys. It was because, you think about like, when we talk about client led, but we also want to talk about strength based. You always want to bank on people's strengths. Tell me about your strengths. And in the beginning, like people don't know what their strengths are. And you have to have them like think about it. Like I could tell them, like, I could sit here and talk about your strengths, but like, let's really think about it. Like you have to allow them to really like process it and think about what are their strengths are. And then when they start to tell you their strengths, then start to build on those strengths and start to build the relationship on them and start to help them see that stuff. Because then I started to believe in myself and be like, damn, I really am like straight, like I really could do this. I do have like good qualities about myself. I really do have like the ability to like, do better, not only for myself, but like for my family. I never thought like that was possible because you come in with labels. Society labels you, so that's what you believe, and that's what you're going to continue to believe. So when you think about this like strength-based model, you have to be able to like allow that person to really fully like explore their strengths with you also too. I just think like what I want to share one thing that changed my life, like one of the trajectories. As you think about like we did this goal book when we came out of prison, and they told me, oh, do this goal book, and I'm like, a goal book, like we don't get goals, like goals don't happen for us. They're like, yeah, like I guess it was this study they said with Harvard students, and people that graduated from Harvard still didn't meet their goals, where there was other people that did it that met this goal book. And I'm like, oh my God, these people are all full of shit, right? Like, whatever, I'll just do this because whatever, they're telling me to do it. But I'm like, okay, so who's gonna do better than anybody from Harvard? Like, come on, right? So I did it. And I put like it says put whatever you want to travel, like education and stuff like that, right? So like in one of my travel things, I had put New York in there because in my mind, because I had never went anywhere else besides my neighborhood, so New York was so far to me. Like it was like, wow, New York, it was like way on the other side. So at Homeboy, I had the opportunity to go to New York, and I'm like, damn, like this is not real. Like they're playing with me. But we went to New York. I was on Times Square, and I just started crying. And I think right there, I realized like, you know what, things are possible for me. So that's when we talk about like, accompanying people, like having them go outside and letting them experience certain things. That's why Father Greg takes people out on trips. That's why we try to take people outside of like their neighborhood so they can see that there's more to life. I would have never have thought like, my life was from a prison cell to my neighborhood, to a prison cell to my neighborhood. So being in New York was like, wow, this is amazing. But you know what I mean? So you just think about those type of things, and you wouldn't think like, oh, traveling is going to be something that's going to help people change their life, but it is. Some people, even though we live in Los Angeles, never been to a beach or even the mountains, and
Thank
like
you,
you just think
Natalie.
like,
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Sorry, you continue going, Natalie. Sorry, I think, someone's on. Great.
Oh, it's okay. I was just trying to say like how important it is to like really think about outside the box. That's what Homeboys does, is that you have to think outside the box. Like sometimes you have to take people, even camping or wherever, and just like to like help them really change their life. It's not just about sitting here talking to them, like let me hear your problems and stuff like that, but it's about having them see a different way of life also.
I love this. So let me just say, with everything that you all have just said, I love what you all are doing. I mean, to me, it's everything that I hear. I hear hope, and it seems like, that what a gift that you all have to be able to be, in this work, in this ministry, in this mission, and to be able to encourage people to be human. I mean, that's what I hear when I hear you speaking, Erin, Natalie, that, and this is clearly the gift of what this work is at Homeboy Industries. And I know that many of us have probably read some of Father Gregory Boyle's books and heard talks, but to hear what you all are doing, and it just reinforces what I kind of consider the genius of this work, letting people be human. So there was a question that, let's see, it was a good question. Make sure I didn't lose it. Donna, I believe, asked. Yeah, Donna asked, is there anything that can be done before gang members end up in prison? Or do you all is there a lot of preventative kind of work at Homeboy Industries?
So we don't do a lot of prevention work, right? So I think, however, do I think that there is work that can be done? Absolutely, right? I think that there needs to be mentorship, there needs to be, therapy, family therapy, right? Because we know that someone doesn't wake up one day and say like, I think I'm going to commit a crime and I want to be bad, I want to go to prison for the rest of my life, right? So no one really grows up wanting to be bad, right? So I think we need to continue to work with youth, work with even young adults who maybe haven't made it to prison yet. Let's work through their trauma. Let's help them get grounded. Let's provide them hope, like Natalie was talking about. Let's provide them goals, a future, right? And different possibilities. And I think especially when you're working with younger people, right, it takes a family approach. So you're not going to be able to save someone, right? You need to be able to take on a family case management or a family approach, working with the youth, working with the parents, trying to take some of those barriers out the way, and showing unconditional love at the end of the day, that no matter what, I'm here for you, will go a long way. And I think I did a lot of work working with youth and families. I did a 3-year grant we had here at Homeboy. And I think it's hard because the families have so much on their plate. And I think that at some point you get a little bit disappointed, right? Because sometimes you do so much work with them and you provide them resources and that relationship and everything they need, right? But then, they still end up being incarcerated and looking at a long time. And I think you feel defeated as a clinician and as a provider. You feel defeated and you feel like, what am I doing? I did all of this work and they still ended up, going to prison or going to jail. And, some of my colleagues would say, well, you planted the seed and that's all that matters. You planted the seed, but sometimes it's like, as a clinician or a provider, you're like, that's not enough. Planting the seed is not enough. I need to do more because it's, but then I get reminded, like from people like Natalie, it doesn't matter. You planted the seed and you're going to tag team other people along the way to continue to water that seed, right? And you don't need to be the one to do everything. There are other people like you and I who will continue to work with them and will continue to water it, and it'll grow and blossom when they're ready, not when I'm ready, when they're ready. So I don't know if that answered that question.
It did. Yeah. Thanks, Erin. So Chris has his hand up. So Chris, yeah, you have the mic.
I'm using my pastor's Zoom. My name's Alex Sanchez, and I am a reentry navigator up here at Underground Ministries up in Washington. And first off, I just want to say thank you to everybody at Homeboy Industries. You guys have inspired us a lot throughout the years. And my question for you is, when you're working with somebody, and like for me, it hits home because I work with my nephew, and when I was involved, we were both involved in the same gangs, and he came home and we worked with him for about a year. He did a whole 180 on his life, and now he went back into active gang banging, active drug addiction, and for me, it's hard to deal with that. So my question for you guys is, when you guys are working with somebody and you build this relationship where you guys already have this bond, and they go back to the streets, how do you mentally and emotionally deal with that?
Well, first of all, yeah, like we learned it's not about us, like it's not about me, and if I make it about me, then I'm never gonna be able to like get through the next day. And like if you continue to do your work, like you're gonna be able to receive him when he's ready. Like if you don't continue to like continue to work on you and do what you do, like then you're not gonna be able to receive him or the next person that comes. And trust me, he's gonna come back. They always come back. They do. Like I've had them come and go, been cussed out, left, come back, apologize to me. And no matter what, I remain consistent. So as long as you remain consistent and like you're there for them, like they're gonna remember that. It's not about what you do for them, it's about how you make them feel. You know, like people don't remember like the things that you do for them.
Let's see, I think we may have, up there you are, Natalie. I'm sorry, we lost that last 10 seconds, Natalie, if you wouldn't, or at least I did. Yeah, could you say just the last part of that, Natalie, again?
Hello?
You cut off on where people don't remember what you do for them. They remember how you made them feel, and then you cut off.
Yeah. Well, basically that was it. Hey, you guys, sorry, I'm at Starbucks, so that's why you can hear the music, and I'm using their Wi-Fi. So.
And see here, I thought you were at Homeboy Cafe, so
No. If I was at home cafe, it probably would be this unstable. But no, I just like that's just it's always about the way you make people feel. That's it. And being consistent. Like if no matter what, like when he comes back, you're just gonna be there to receive him. And continue to make him feel wanted, to make him feel his worth, and he's gonna continue to come back no matter what. And that's for whoever you work with, because they do come back. Like we've experienced it like many of times. Like Homeboy says, it's not. Some people might be their first chance, second chance. It takes what it takes. Like what I've learned that people get it in doses, right? So you give him a dose of something, and so he's gonna come back. It doesn't like we didn't become gang members overnight. We didn't become drug addicts overnight. Like it took a lot of time. So like the healing process, sometimes we get allergic to our healing, and it gets scary, and it gets overwhelming, and we go back to what we know, because like you don't know that part, right? So you just go back. So as long as you continue to be there, they're gonna come back. They know they want to feel that goodness that they felt inside of them.
The other thing I want to say is I think we have to remember that we have to do the work, right? So I think if you're in therapy, that's great, right? Because it gives you a place we can't just tell our clients to go to therapy. We need to get the therapy for ourselves too. We need to be aware of our triggers, countertransference. I think we're meeting weekly with our supervisor, processing these feelings that we're having so that we have a place to unload, so that we can remain healthy, and so that you can remain healthy to receive him when he's ready. So
Thank you both.
Yeah, that's a great point, Erin. I've found in just the work that I do here with guys coming out of prisons, most of them have been involved in gangs and the chaos, that if I don't have my own therapy or spiritual direction or time, I am of no value when it gets into the weeds of life and the challenges, especially someone Alex, right, in the throes of addiction, which is a whole nother category of chaos, really. And so we'll be praying for you and for your family, and just that he comes home quickly, so one there are a few questions that have come up, but one question that I have for either of you or both, Erin and Natalie, you're the 18th what the kind of 18th month of attachment, the kind of the secure kind of foundations that, again, to me is just brilliant and so important, because I find that the guys that I work with, I keep expanding their timeline here, because I just think we're right back into building basic kind of healthy attachment and modeling that. And it just takes time, and you can't predict it. You can't put it into any kind of on your time, or my time. I can't. A program is even difficult because it takes time, and for people to eventually develop trust, especially when they've been betrayed and they've experienced so much rupture in their life. I just, if you don't mind, I mean, you already definitely commented on it, but for the 18 months there, and is some of this residential? How do you take those 18 months and build those relationships? I mean, you already spoke to a lot of it with rapport building and a lot of that, but is it residential? Is there a residential piece to this? I guess is one aspect of my question.
Yeah. Natalie, you're probably better equipped for this because you do the case management piece and you help move clients along the process.
So, always the wraparound service, right? So not only do they get the case manager and the navigator that we talked about, but they also get a workforce counselor. So when they first come in, it's 18 months. The first 60 days is part-time. So people could say they want it. People could say, I want a better for my life. This is what I want. But, things happen. And sometimes, like I said, like people get allergic. So basically all we want to look for is people are showing up every day and being able to communicate. Then they become full-time in the program. So we pay them the stipend. So they get paid to work on themselves. We think about like meaningful employment. So you think about like we want to give people purpose, right? When people have purpose, they want to start to thrive. So sometimes, at the end of the day, they need money. It's not like enough to like live with, but it's enough a little bit to have from 6 days, and then they become a full-time grant. So then there's different phases of the program. So people, like, there's a lot of complex trauma. So people might come in with a lot of things, their children back, homeless, all these different entities, right? So then you have the case manager to help them. So they might go into a treatment center if that's what they need. They might not go into a treatment center. So we partner with different other agencies also. But when you think about partnering, you got to think about like not just connecting people to resources, you got to connect people to people, because sometimes people are not always received in a nice way, especially gang members. If you send somebody somewhere that don't know how to talk or with tattoos on their face, they might get turned down, right? So they get turned down, they're never going to go back. And remember how I said, it's always the way you make people feel. So if that person didn't make that person feel right, they're not going to go back. So it takes us to help us to build the connections with these other programs to help utilize these programs to help them. Not everybody has a residential program. That's only if they have a drug addiction. And then they go into their time will stop when they go into a residential drug addiction place, and then they'll come back. If they need sober living, we help them get sober living. We help them find their own housing. So it is an 18-month program. We don't have residential, but we have all other wraparound services. If they go into that, means that they're not ready yet, right? Because they're still using. So they're not ready for really like what Homeboys has to offer them. You cannot heal when you're still using drugs. So our first thing is to help them get off drugs. And then they come back, their time will stop. They work with, some people might, Homeboys has an education department there. Some people don't have a high school diploma or GED. So that may be something that they work on while they're working on, life skill classes, coping skills, communication, maybe parenting, project fatherhood. We have like a whole different range of classes. So they come in, like you could say 9 to 5, like a job, and we pay them, or we pay them to work on themselves. So we pay them to go to classes, we pay them to meet with their case manager, and we pay them to go to therapy if that's what they choose. There's tattoo removal there, and then we pay them to so there's different, like they could go into a solar panel, they could go into internship. There's different other type of work things that they could go into. It's really basically like what they say that they want. If it's like a union job, then we try to get them everything that they're going to need to get a union job. And if it's like, maybe they want to pursue higher education, because, a lot of people now, like, I don't know how it is in like other states, but in California, like higher education is starting to be like something really big and accessible versus just a couple of years ago. So a lot of people are coming in with a lot of college courses, with higher education. They have an education program that is geared for college and it helps them. Some people don't even have that. So we just help them to build on whatever it is that they want. And in here it says, how do you involve families? So as we do this, we involve families. If it takes for me to help you and your family, then it's going to take for me to help you and your family. But the primary person is the client. But sometimes in order to help the client, you have to help the family. So however it is, maybe I need to relocate them out of their neighborhood because they're living in an unsafe neighborhood. So maybe we have to pay for relocate them and their family. Or maybe like the family might need services. So we try to offer them whatever type of services that they have. So basically they get wraparound services. Our focus is the client, but we do involve the family if that's what it takes to help the client.
And just because Natalie's glitching a little bit, I just want to just to clarify the 18 months. So the first 3 months, no, the first 2 months they're part-time, right? So they're just coming every day. And then maybe from 2 months to 6 months, they're here full-time and they're going to classes and they're in therapy and they're really working on getting paid to work on themselves. After those 6 months, we transition them hopefully into a business. So we have the bakery, the cafe, the Homeboy Diner, recycling center. Then we do some job training here within our businesses, right? And all this time they can by this time they should have finished a lot of their classes, but they usually continue therapy. And then the last 6 months is when they're referred to, like Natalie said, their employment counselor, college courses, and kind of work on transitioning and completing the 18-month program. Although I do want to say that it's not 18 months for everyone. Some people complete in 3 months, some people complete in 8 months. Some people I have this one client who's still here. He came in at 17. He's like 24 now and he's still knocking on my door. So it's not, I don't want to say that it's just 18 months.
Again, I love this. I love it because it's just so true to the folks that I work with that need time. And as we know, and as I know, I'm sure Natalie, you could speak to this more than anyone, how traumatizing incarceration is. And in Florida, I mean, it's abysmal. And, we wouldn't want our pets to be living in these spaces, let alone human beings. So that's clearly going to take time if someone has been subjected to that kind of environment for an extended period of time. And I at times I feel pressure, I have to say, and I don't know if you all can speak to this, maybe not. I mean, I know Homeboy Industries is so you're building such a great culture there. But at times I feel pressure from, benefactors and others, like, okay, it's time to get so-and-so to move on. It's time to get so-and-so to move on. We need, 3 months, 4 months. Okay, why aren't things kind of picking up? And I want to just say, if you've been in these environments that these guys have spent so much of their life, you would understand that it's not a quick fix necessarily. But to me also, I'd say, like, some guys are very resilient, like you said, Erin, and all they need is just a little bit of confidence and maybe just a little bit of therapy, and then they're able to get their own housing and families back and all of that. And others, it takes a longer period of time. So that was very helpful, just laying that out, Natalie and Erin, the kind of the 18-month period, which my mind is blowing right now. So I'm kind of taking all of this in, and I'll have to look up some of the other documents that you have. I don't know if anyone else, oh, well, you addressed, yeah, thanks, Natalie. You caught Robert's question. If anyone else has any maybe last minute questions, we've got maybe about 2 or 3 minutes here, or if Erin, Natalie, if there was something that you weren't able to say that you do want to say, feel free to take this time as well.
I do want to just inform everybody that Homeboys, like in August, has this conference called Homeboys Global Network, where there's all types of different organizations from all over the world that we put on. Past couple of years, it's been on Zoom. So if that's something that people are interested in, like, just know that that's available, and it happens in August. So I mean, you could look at our website to see like, you know, when they're going to start to do registration. If you or your agency wants to present in the Homeboy Global Network, they always like, at first Homeboy started, but now it's like moved on and moved on, and other agencies start to present, because it's all about all of us learning together and what the best practices are.
And I just want to say just one last thing too. I just want to say thank you to all of you for doing this work, right? And working with people who have basically been let down by our societies, by systems, people who are thrown away. So I just want to say thank you. And I think I just want to acknowledge the work that you guys are doing as well. And just really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Erin. Yeah, and Natalie, if maybe Jared or Brandon, we can get the link that conference. Maybe we can share it at some point. I think that would be wonderful, and I think I can see already a few folks here would probably really benefit from a more extensive kind of immersion into the work that you all do at Homeboy Industries, because I think it's something that I would love to model it more as well. And let's see, that we got a note here that we can share the link in the follow-up email being sent later today. So we'll share that information, Natalie. Thanks for alerting us to that. And again, thank you all. Thank you, Erin and Natalie, especially for the work that you're doing at Homeboy Industries, the daily grind of being present to our sisters and brothers that are in need. And we are so grateful that you took time out of your probably busy December to share a little bit with us. And yeah, and then as you were saying, Erin, again, so many different ministries and work that's being represented here today with people that have joined on our call. We pray that all of our ministries and work that we're doing will flourish and continue to thrive and do the good work that our Lord has called us to do. So I think that's probably a wrap. I pray that everyone has a joy-filled and safe and wonderful Christmas and holiday season, and that everyone stays safe. So thank you all. And thank you again, Natalie and Erin. God bless.